Welcome to the Talking to Kids About Sex interview series. I'm your host, Ayna Manes. I'm an educator and a parent coach, and I help parents talk openly about sex with their kids so that they can ensure their kids have all the knowledge and skills they need to have safe and healthy sexual relationships from the start. Today, I'm speaking with Naomi Aldort. She is the author of Raising Children, Raising Ourselves. Here's her book. I really enjoyed it. And she's a parent and family counselor, writer, and public speaker. Her advice columns appear in parenting magazines around the world, and she was phenomenal on last year's speaker series. So I'm so glad to have you back. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you. Wonderful being with you again.
I'm sure with your background and your expertise, you have a story you can share with us about parenting a child and their sexuality. Do you have anything you can tell us?
You know, I think I told all the best ones last time, but I thought of something nice to tell about young people, about myself as a teenager, that could be useful or inspiring, because it seems like my contact with teenagers, parents and parents of teenagers today, there is a rush, there is an idea that I'm not good unless I had sex or have a boyfriend or have a girlfriend.
Yes.
And it's been going on for quite a while, because by now I have parents in their 30s or late 20s who are telling me about their youth and how, you know, they had that pressure and assumed they should have sex. So the story is simply the opposite. The way my life started romantically and sexually was with my first boyfriend, and we knew each other and wooed each other and were close friends with that electricity of sexuality for a year and a half before we held hands. And then when we held hands, and I remember it so vividly because it's just, you know, and I've had more casual relationships later on in my life, and I tell you there's no comparison, which is why I thought I should tell this, because this idea, oh, I should have a boyfriend, I should have had sex by now, you know, I'm more cool if I had sex, it's just so off. It misses the real ride of what humans are. We are more evolved than animals. We do have brains that can make things more sublime, more related to emotional and spiritual connections. So, you know, this guy, I knew him very well by then. We went to concerts together. We stayed up till 2 a.m. just talking, because you can't go to sleep. You're physically attracted and you just want to talk and talk and talk. But we knew each other, I mean, really, a year and a half. And then we came back from a classical music concert walking in a field, in a shortcut. He lived in a village. This was in his area. And just as we walked and talked, he slipped his hand into my hand. And there's no resistance. I mean, it was like he was so respectful and so not trying it. And that night we sat together and talked, and all he did is kept caressing my hand for hours. And there were another few months to the first kiss, you know, with that kind of tension that we always want to build in lovemaking, that within the lovemaking, we don't want to go for sex right away. We want to give compliments, talk, caress, caress the face, not go right away for the sexual areas. We all yearn for that. But we can also do it in terms of the knowing each other and have love with a person and sex with a person first time ever, when it's one that you know already so intimately, that you feel so comfortable, so trusting. Really nothing can go wrong. And the evolution of this relationship with my first boyfriend continued as slow. And it, until this very date, I would say it was the most beautiful relationship I've ever had. And maybe because we knew each other so well in advance of the sex, and we connected so tenderly and so slowly. So really the value of this story for me and for whoever is listening, inspire your children to have that intimacy first, to know a person first. And you do that all the way from young age. We'll talk about that a little later. We're humans. We have the advantage of a brain and have an ability to turn sex into something a lot more sublime than just having an intercourse or kissing just anybody. I get really concerned when teenagers or even young adults think that going together to a movie means you have to hold hands at the movie and to kiss. It's like sometimes you don't even know this person yet. Kissing is the last thing. I have to say, my mother told me, and that maybe helped me. I remember talking to her when I was a child, and she said, well, a kiss is a result of a long time love. When you love each other, you know each other really well, then it eventually evolved into that you want to kiss each other.
As opposed to a kiss on the first date, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This whole thing, and I work with teenagers and with their parents, so I hear this thing about, if you go to a movie, you just kiss because it's what you do on the first date, so you can tell everybody the next day, yes, I had the kiss. But it's not the same. A kiss with somebody you're truly connected to is heavenly. And it's not like that with somebody you just know and you went to the movies with. It's not the same. And I wish for every child who's growing up today to have that unbelievably heavenly experience of sexuality that with humans come as a result of, as a culmination of a real intimate connection and love.
Well, I think that is exactly the challenge, that kids have all their hormones and their brain changes going on during adolescence, and so they have these feelings of sexual attraction for the first time. And they don't know the difference necessarily between sexual attraction and love. They just feel these super strong feelings. And so it's really challenging to explain that difference to them and to help them wait for the love, right? For the relationship that you're talking about, rather than having them just act on that sexual drive and that impulse that it feels so strong to them that they may even mistaken it for love.
Yes, and I ask myself, why are they confused this way?
Yeah.
Like for those of us who have gone through having deep love before we actually kiss, what did we get from our parents that's different? Why did we know that we don't want the sex, but we do want a relationship with somebody we can trust and connect and feel at home with? So I think it is a parenting issue. It's a modeling. As a society, we're responsible for the fact that the generation is now growing up with that animal impulse in us. And I don't mean to degrade by saying animal, but we're the only creature that has language and that we can express emotions and that we can have that, which is why we have marriage. We make a commitment. So I would say to not get physically close with somebody unless you have a commitment, unless the two of you have some kind of spoken or unspoken agreement, we're in love, and this is not like you today and the other person tomorrow. This may sound old-fashioned, but to me it sounds more heavenly, making out of sex what it's supposed to be for humans. And of course, it also is safer and respectful. It just have all the good stuff that's possible for us as humans with sexuality to have that.
So why do you think that teens do have trouble with these body boundaries and these sexual boundaries? I mean, you said it must have something to do with the parenting, but I guess can you go a little bit deeper into that? What do you think are the influences there?
Well, that starts all the way, and I talked a little bit about that, so it's a good connection to this interview because I talked a little bit about that in the last interview. I think we're raising children to seek approval. we're doing all this praise, we're doing all this teaching. You shouldn't listen to yourself and to your own body. Someone else should tell you what to do with your body. And that starts, you ask me when it starts in babyhood. If the baby cries and wants to nurse them. You know, if the baby wants to sleep with you or be held, hold them. Yes, you'll hold them all the time as a baby. Yes, you'll sleep with them. But look at the message. If I tell the baby or the young child, I mean, this can be true later, you shouldn't trust your own feeling that you want to sleep with me. You should sleep in another room, even if it makes you cry or even makes you sad in a later on, or nagging mommy to lay next to me. You know, if what they learn, how I feel inside, is right, why would they let somebody later on invade, touch them against their will? And then my famous always saying, telling a child, kiss grandma goodbye, you know, against their will, telling them what you feel about your body isn't right. You have to abide by, it's like training them to be molested. You know, listen to what another person tells you. So now they're listening to peers, you know. So it starts with breastfeeding on demand. It starts with the parents not touching the child against their will. Asking, yeah, I asked my 3 years old, can I give you a kiss? And not always. Sometimes it was obvious. They would come and kiss me and I'll kiss them back. But you have to be respectful. Or when a child, somebody else touches them without permission and they look like that, I don't tell them, give Uncle Sam a hug. I tell Uncle Sam, I don't think he wants to touch you or to be touched. So that's how you teach the children from the beginning. You protect them. You tell them how you feel about your body is right. I tell grandma, I don't think he wants to kiss right now, and that's all right.
Okay, so what if we have some parents who are watching this interview and they're like, ooh, I missed the boat there, right? I didn't do those things. I had a different need or a different philosophy, and now my kid is 10 or 13 or 15.
Yes.
So what do they do now to build the child's sense of self-respect and assertiveness, and to really have those sexual boundaries so that our kids do have better sexual experiences?
So first of all, I want to say something. I love that question. That's really always true. Like, okay, what if I didn't do it this way? First thing, don't feel guilty. We're human beings. Our children get our genes. We have no control over that in our womb. And then our children get us for 18 years, and we have no control over that. And that's beautiful. And it's not supposed to be perfect. We all win a lottery by what body we're born into, to what family, what country, what food, what, you know. It's like, yeah. So in each stage of the way, better sooner than later. It's never too late because it's where you are now. So you're learning. Never say, oh, she makes me feel guilty, and then you stay with your, you know, whatever isn't working. It's about, oh, I'm learning. I wish I did it the other way, is all right, but it's still beating yourself up. It's like, what can I do now, which is your question. So start right there. I mean, so you're 10 years old, is already seeking approval. And by the way, seeking approval also comes from praise, from telling your child the grades, you know, good boy, you did a good grades, you know, I'll give you a gift, rewards. So all this a competitive notion of the child has to live up to expectations. And I'm not saying all expectations are bad and striving, but it has to come from the child. And then we support them, and that's a whole different subject, so I won't get into it today. But it's really possible at age 10, 9, 7, 13, whenever you learn it, like for parents who are learning it right now, hearing me, is like, oh, go talk to your child. Now they're mature enough to hear, and it's so important for them to meet a non-perfect parent, to know life is safe. They can be imperfect. So again, that's the first remedy to this seeking approval, looking good, being like everybody else. Don't teach them to fit in. Teach them we're human beings, be rooted in yourself, and we all make mistakes. So you come to the child and say, you know, I just learned something. And I realized I was kind of modeling to you and talking to you and being with you in a way that may have taught you to seek approval, or however you say to them, giving an example of something that just happened yesterday or last year or the week before. When you did this and I praised you, or when you, or grandma wanted to kiss you and I said, come on, kiss grandma goodbye, don't make faces, don't roll your eyes, it's not nice, all of that. Whatever I did, if you can glue to something that just happened or is going to happen, we're going to visit uncle and aunt, whoever, and I know they always kind of force themselves on you for kisses or insist that you tell them about your friends, etc. And I know you don't like that, and I want you to know that I was wrong all these years to tell you that you should. And I don't want to do that anymore. The opposite. I'm going to support you and just tell them I don't want to share that with you, or I don't want to give a hug. And I promise I'll be on your side if I'm there. And if I'm not there, if you need my presence, maybe walk over. Give them specific advice for future, or rely on a story of the past and say, when this happens again, we'll do this instead of that. So, and it's never too late. It doesn't mean it would shift all at once, especially if a child goes to school, has friends who keep dripping the other information and teaching all this stuff. So, it's important to be in communication with teenagers and with young children. So when you are in open communication, when they're safe to talk to you because you don't judge and you're willing to judge yourself, and you're willing to say, I did that wrong, and you're not falling apart because discovering that, so they can learn, I can change my ways, and it doesn't mean that I'm bad and wrong, and I don't have to fall apart. I don't have to be perfect. My son was telling me, he and I were talking, this is a grown-up, about the epidemic of anxiety and depression in young people today. And I said, what about the past when parenting was a lot more oppressive and violent? He said, you don't understand. And I told him he was right. Today, the parents who are helicopter mothers and fathers and overprotective, and look at your playgrounds, how they make them newer and newer and less interesting and safer. And now you can't even hang on a bar anymore in a playground, and you can't have a long slide or good swings. I mean, it's all gone for the name of protection and safety, and also the competition. Look on YouTube for all the star kids. That's destructive, he said to me, because he was a star kid himself, and that's a mistake I've made by going with that, with his teachers who put him on stage and competitions and all that stuff. And he said that did a lot of harm to me. I became very anxious. So it's really a huge subject. It's not just sexuality. It's who we are and how we create our children to be this. You have to be a star kind of child, and I have to protect you, and you have to be happy all the time. So you shouldn't have anything goes wrong. So I'll put a coat on you so you're not cold for a second, and I'll tell you that if you do this, your friends won't like you, so you won't fit in and you would suffer. Why not let them be themselves and learn from their relationship with these people? Or you're in a restaurant and your child goes around like my child used to do at age 2 to talk from table to table, and the mother protects them and say, don't do that, you disturb them, they're going to be, let them do that and let the people tell them. And people are also learning, oh God, I can't tell this child is disturbing our romantic conversation, but boy, is this cute little child, how can I tell him? Well, one time I did go to somebody and said to the adults, it's all right to tell him that you want to be by yourselves, because they didn't, they don't stand for themselves. So be real. We need to raise children who are in reality, in life. And that includes the sexuality then, because then they learn. We ask, how come teenagers don't know to distinguish sexuality from real love? Well, that's where it starts. They don't want to distinguish their body as their own, that they own and that they decide about. So I'm kind of coming back to our main subject here because it's so important. And that starts with kiss grandma goodbye, No, don't kiss her if you don't want to. And don't let me kiss you if you don't want to. And the other side of co-sleeping, the child should sleep with you if they want to, but make sure you don't give them the message that you want to for your own sake. So at later age, they don't sleep with you because they don't dare to break mama or papa's heart and go to their own room. You want it to be their call, how they feel inside, so that they keep knowing how I feel inside is right. So every time you say to a child in a way you don't know what your body is telling you, like, I know you're tired now. Again, that starts with toddler or even babies. I know to put you to sleep now. If the child didn't choose to go to sleep, I'd rather the child goes to sleep too tired, able to fall asleep standing, which is their criteria, by the way, to when they're tired enough. But they need to do their criteria, and eventually, as a result of it, they actually learn. My 3 kids are phenomenal sleepers. They have no sleep problems, never have. Sleep on every flight from beginning to end. So they don't know how the flight went because they slept. I can't sleep on flights because I didn't have that. But they had the co-sleeping as long as they needed, and nobody put them to bed. They decided to go to bed. I mean, we enabled it, made the atmosphere right, although bedtime often should be very physical to unleash energy and emotions. Again, a different long subject that I address in some other interviews and articles on Attachment Parenting International and other places. But it all connects to how I feel about my body. I decide when I need to go to the bathroom. I had a couple recently in a session who said, when we tell our child to go pee, I said, why do you tell your child to go pee? Well, we think he needs to, and otherwise he'll do in his diaper, in his pants, whatever it was. And I say, well, there are other ways to do that that's respectful. With babies, I'm all for elimination communication. But, you do you do your peeing now rather than telling a child. I think this child was like 4 years old. I'd rather that they have an accident and make their own decision and realize, oh, if I wait too long because I don't want to leave my game, which is usually why it happens, then I get wet on my way to the bathroom. And anyway, I have to take a break. It's even bigger break when I have to change my clothes. So they do learn. We need to trust children. One of the biggest things here is trusting and letting the child own themselves from day one. Then they wouldn't confuse sex with love.
Well, I love how you really outlined what a partnership model would look like, where I'm my child's advocate, but I also trust them to do what they need to do and to make their own decisions, because I think that that's key. And so bringing it back to older kids, so that this is also a helpful interview for parents of older kids, I really think that trusting those kids to make some of their own decisions and a lot of their own mistakes is key. And I've worked with parents too who are real concerned about that, who are like, well, but shouldn't I protect my child from possibly getting bullied? Right. And that's tricky. Like, I understand why that parent wants to be so protective. And at the same time, the parent's fears may be unfounded. That bullying might not even happen because the parent is thinking back to what the values were with their friends and back when they were kids. And, well, things have changed, I mean, the example I'm thinking of is a father who didn't want to let his son wear more girly clothes.
Right.
And I was saying, well, I don't know that kids these days have so much gender policing as there was when we were kids. Right. And so, would you be willing to let your son try it and learn for himself?
Right.
Whether he gets that kind of response from his peers. So how do you think that kids learn gender equality? Because I think that's part of what we were talking about before with not having good boundaries, is that maybe one gender can push and the other gender doesn't. Right? That the boys are dangerous and that they're going to push girls into doing things that they don't want to do. So how do you think that we teach that gender equality?
Well, number one, modeling. It's just so important to have the parents treat each other with equality. And there is still so much, even with couples who are pretty much equal, there is still unconscious, covert inequality that nobody means it badly, but it's still a lot in both genders. The women fall for it not knowingly. You know, even young women are still telling me when they pay for a Skype session to talk with me, it's like, oh, my husband won't give me money for another session. What? What does it mean your husband won't give you? I mean, you know, we are equal people. So that's the kind of thing, to make sure the child doesn't see this kind of conversation, to actually not have those kind of relationship. If the man is the one earning the money or the woman is the one earning the money, whoever it is, the money is the product of both of them working. It doesn't matter. And so it's really important to have a relationship in which whoever earns the money, which has to do with how society is run, not with who is working more. Often the person staying with the kids at home works 10 times more, much harder and many more hours, about 24/7, and emotional, and needs qualifications all the way from nursing and cooking and psychology and communication workshops and you name it. And handling wounds and cries and fights and mediation. I mean, the skills are immense. Parents are doing the most important job on earth. So to say that the one who is doing this job, just because society doesn't pay for it, we don't have technical way of paying for it, although I still recommend it. I think we should come up with it in some way. But for now, if one person is working out and bringing the money in, that money belongs equally to both people. And equality starts right there. I'm bringing the money subject up because I see it still too often, even with couples who are kind of equal in the kitchen and who is putting the children to bed and stuff like that. And they think they're equal. And then the mother tells me I have to ask my husband if I can do another session. And no, you should ask yourself, and you should know how much money you have, and it should be in your account or however you do it. In the book, The Liberated Man, the author suggests to have a together account for all the family expenses and a he account and she account divided equally with the rest of the money for do whatever you want with the money kind of thing. That's probably a step forward. I think what my husband and I did is better. Just have a together account, a checking account, and a lot of people do that. And I always, also when we bought a house, I put the woman's name first. Not that the woman is more important, but we need to break the trend that the officer at the title company automatically writes the man's name first and the woman as the co-signer. So my husband would tell them, we're going to do everything the opposite until it actually doesn't mean anything. So on our checkbook, it was also Naomi and Harvey Aldort. Just so that people get it, you know, we make a difference, you know, not that it matters to me and not that the women should be ahead of the men or the men ahead of the woman, but because it has been automatically the men ahead. So all these things without canceling the romantic aspect of the differences. I also see that people sometimes, they take far the equality. They dress the same, they look the same. You go on the street, you can't tell genders anymore, at least from the back. It's very hard, you know, if they have a longer coat and if they don't move, you know, walking can tell a lot. But, you know, it's just jeans and some top. So I'm not for not looking feminine or masculine in however way, as long as it's comfortable. I wear pants, you know, I think skirts are really sexist, but also sometimes I wear them because I find it beautiful. But I think we need to make sure that equality doesn't mean sameness. It doesn't mean that we have to cancel the beautiful differences. It's fine that I don't have the strength to pick up like we hit with wood. But if there is a giant log and I can't chop it or pick it up, or I'm not the one doing the chopping because I'm not a strong woman. Some women can do it, but my arms are not strong. It's so romantic and beautiful to say, to have that division where I know my son and my husband are splitting the wood for the fire, and I put the wood in the fire and I sweep around the hearth and I do those things, not because of some, the woman should do the housework, but he's bringing the wood and I can't. It's too hard for me. And then the man is not as good usually in communication skills or in beauty. My husband totally did not do anything deciding about how the home would look inside. Furnishing, pictures. It's like in most families, the woman is better at that. Not always. I know people that's not the case. So I'm not saying to go by that, but to
But I love what you're saying about how we should just have the skills that we have, and offer them up to the family in partnership.
Exactly. We don't have to actively cancel some of those gender differences that are beautiful. It's like it's beautiful. Why kill it? Why not be feminine? And I think, and that's the part about the gender identification, that I think some kids today maybe naturally are transgender or whatever, but others may be a little confused because we're not distinguishing ourselves in a healthy way while being equal. So it's very important to be equal as human beings, but not to be the same, and to cherish the differences, to cherish that, mommy is soft and she has boob and she has the milk and she has the big belly with the next baby. I mean, hey, the differences are there. Those differences nobody has a problem with because nature forces itself. It's there in your face. But there are other differences in mental quality, in the nurturing ability, in whatever, aesthetics, way of behaving. It's fine to have them, and children need to learn, and that's true about genders and races, and you want to teach equality. People are people. They're all equal in terms of their rights and their abilities, and you don't want to limit. So it's also a question of avoiding the kind of language, you're a girl, you should do this, or this is for boys. Or what? You want a doll? I thought, because my boys loved dolls. So, we had this clown they always played with long green hair. And I had my firstborn was breastfeeding that doll, that clown. He would wear a snuggly when, I was wearing a real baby. And, he had no idea that he couldn't do that. So we have pictures of him with a snuggly and holding the baby to his little nipple, right? And that's just so, I love that picture. It's so beautiful. He's just like, and it doesn't mean that he wouldn't distinguish. I mean, he's a man today, has a girlfriend. It's all good. It all evolves. Just because a child at age 3 pretends to be a firefighter, well, nothing wrong with being a firefighter, but it doesn't mean that he would necessarily be a firefighter. It just means they're trying on all these things, and we need to allow that equally for boys and girls. So if the girl wants to run a tractor in the yard and go, that's fine. Maybe she has a big brother and that's what she thinks we do. That doesn't mean anything. You don't have to start thinking that she's gay or transgender or this or that. She's just a girl who has seen that and is thinking it's cool. It's wonderful. She wants to try it. So to allow all the talents to flourish. If a boy wants to do grand jetés and pirouettes and want to join the ballet class, some of the best dancers we have in history are male.
I guess I want to bring in a couple more topics before we run out of time. One of them is that we talked about maybe you addressing contraception, which is not something that is held equally between the genders often, right? With girls using the pills or, boys being responsible for condoms or deciding that they don't want to use condoms. Right. And then there was another part that I thought maybe you could help us understand, which is how to help parents with heartbreak. What do we do for guiding our kids through those moments when they feel really, really hurt with the relationships that they have been so involved with. So would you be willing to speak to either of those?
I could speak to both, but they're both
Great.
long. So I'll try to make it short. So I think the heartbreak thing, I'll do that first. It connects to everything we're talking about today, which is that self-esteem and being rooted in oneself. If I'm rooted in what my peers would say, I have to fit in, my mother in my childhood helps me fit in and be like everybody else, then losing a boyfriend or a girlfriend is the end of the world. Because now what will they think of me, and she doesn't like me and I must be liked, and what's wrong with me that I'm not loved. So it's not just the loss of the love of the relationship, it's really gigantic. So it's a huge breakdown. So ideally, we should raise a child who doesn't have as hard time. It's hard, having a heartbreak is hard no matter what. But if your child is one who is rooted in themselves and can handle it and is not seeking approval and is clear, then first of all, I validate the feeling. I don't leave him alone. You know what my oldest son told me when he separated from a girlfriend that was very painful for him? He said his friends never left him alone. They kept him busy. They listened to him and they kept him busy. Let's go play cards. Let's go to the movies. Let's have, go here. Let's have a hike. Let's go this weekend skiing. They just kept him busy. He said that was the best thing his friends did for him. So I would say, engaging friends with that, doing family trip, doing something really fun, doing things is very important, but not like smearing peanut butter on top, but talking, making it safe to share feelings. The heartbroken person needs to cry, needs to really experience their feeling. If they came to me, I would do the work with them, like the Byron Katie work, because every human being can realize that if they lost one thing, something better is waiting. It's not the end. And meet people who lost their first girlfriend or boyfriend and ended up with a wonderful marriage or wonderful other relationship or whatever it is. To know that life is right, and if something is taken away from you, it's because something better is on the way. And it'll take time and it hurts. You don't invalidate the feelings, but it really helps a lot. And if people know to do the work and to ask the 4 questions, and to realize, is it really what you want, that this girl stays with you? Yes, I want her. But when you do the whole process, you realize you come to the opposite. Let's say, no, I don't want her to stay with me. I don't want him to stay with me. And you start seeing, well, because I want to meet more people. I want to stay for the rest of my life. It's my first or my, fledgling years, and I want to meet more people. I want to know who I am first, and I'm moving away to go to college. So actually, people realize, even in young age, this is solving a lot of problems. Everything that happens that looks bad, often, always actually, also solve problems, has good sides to it. So to help the child, after validating and letting the child cry, also doing something like the work of Byron Katie and questioning the thoughts. Now, about I actually love finishing our talk with the subject of birth control. So what I want to say about the birth control is to come back to the inspiration to have relationships only with people with whom you have deep connection, that it's a real romance and a real trust. And I would say that young people who have that kind of relationship probably mature enough to get their own birth control. And that it's not really the parent duty to go and hand out, almost like saying, yeah, go have sex, it's good for you. It's important that they know that it's something that's available, even if they are promiscuous. But I don't like to answer this question with a right and wrong. I am for raising children who would have this real committed relationships and not jump around for sex and for the just satisfying the body or looking good or fitting in that way. So that goes together with no birth control. The best birth control is educate your kids to not have sex until they're actually connected with somebody that they trust, and then the somebody doesn't want them to get pregnant, and they solve the problem together, which birth control, who is doing it, or whatever they want to do. So that's, mine. But there may be other people with the philosophy of, let them hang out, let them have sex. We are creatures, animals like everybody else, and they want to give birth control better than getting pregnant in a relationship that isn't really it. The other thing with, I have some parents that I counsel who have 3 children by age 20 because they had true love at age 16. And actually went for it and got married and have children. I don't have a dogma where people shouldn't have sex early, but I have an opinion that people will enjoy life and love and sex better if they have it on the level of humans, which is with love, with commitment, with trust that's complete, where you feel like the other person wants what's good for you. That's trust. And then nobody go through the boundaries because they want what's good for you. They ask, like I ask my 3-year-old, can I kiss you? They ask, is it all right to touch you here? Is it all right to touch you this way? Do you like it this way? What are we doing? Are you in the middle of the month? Should we use contraception today? That kind of care is what comes with that level of trust and connection that's so beautiful about humans. So I like to raise children who go for what I consider much more fun ride than just fitting in, looking good, and satisfying some physical agenda and drive. It's just more beautiful and more loving, and it's based in trust.
Well, Naomi, thank you so much. I feel like this interview covered so much. And I would love to take a moment to see if you have something you want to offer this audience.
Yes, I think I'm offering the gift of an MP3 called Raising Children Without Timeouts, Threats, or Punishments. And you should already have the link. And also, I think you said we're going to choose maybe a time close to the airing of this interview for me to be on Facebook and answer questions.
Yes, that would be wonderful to have you live in the Facebook group. We would love that.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
I'll be able to do that, and people can also ask me questions privately through booking time with me through my website, Authentic Parent, not parenting, authenticparent.com or naomialdort.com or authenticchild.com, and they can book themselves time for questions or, surf the website. But yeah, I'm looking forward to answering questions, and I'll be happy to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Naomi. It was a pleasure having you on. And for anybody who wants that free gift, just go ahead and click the link down below. You can opt in and you'll receive that MP3 to your email. So thank you, Naomi, and thank you to everyone who watched this interview, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Anya.